Here are some tips on how to make your horror animated shorts more terrifying. A compelling storyline is crucial to any great horror story. Your viewers need to care about what happens to your characters and be invested in their journey. You want to grab their attention right from the start, which is why it's important to have a strong hook in your story. This is the part of your story that happens in the first 30 seconds. It should be intriguing enough to make your viewers want to stick around and find out what happens next. Think about it. If you were watching a horror movie in the theater and the first 30 seconds didn't scare you or intrigue you, would you stay to watch the rest of the film? Probably not. The same goes for your viewers watching your shorts online. They have the power to skip to the next video at any time, so you need to give them a reason to stay. A great hook can make all the difference. In fact, according to a study by Tubular Labs, 85% of people will swipe away from an unskippable ad after just 5 seconds. That means if your video doesn't grab their attention in those first few seconds, they're gonna scroll right by. So how do you come up with a good hook for your story? Well, it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be something as simple as starting your story in the middle of the action. For example, instead of starting your story with your character waking up in a haunted house, start with them running through the house with a killer right behind them. Or maybe you could start with your character investigating strange noises in the attic, only to find something terrifying lurking in the shadows. The possibilities are really endless here. Just remember that the goal is to grab your viewer's attention and make them want to stick around for more. And do you and be afraid to experiment with different hooks until you find one that works well for your story. Building suspense and tension throughout your story is also important to keep your viewers on the edge of their seats and wanting more. This doesn't mean that you need to make your story overly complicated or hard to follow. Sometimes the simplest stories can be the most effective, but it does mean that you need to keep your viewers guessing what's going to happen next. One way to do this is by dropping subtle hints throughout your story that something scary is lurking around the corner. For example, you could have your character walk past a dark figure standing in the shadows, or hear a blood-curdling scream in the distance. These small details can create a sense of unease and make your viewers feel like they re-in the story. Another way to build suspense is by using dialogue to tease what's to come. For example, your character could mention hearing strange noises in the house or seeing strange shadows out of the corner of their eye. This can create a sense of mystery and intrigue, while also hinting at the danger that is lurking in your story. You don't want to give away too much, but just enough to make your viewers curious and keep them engaged. Remember, the best horror stories are the ones that leave viewers with lingering questions and a sense of unease long after the video is over. By building suspense and tension throughout your story, you can create a truly terrifying experience for your viewers. Another important aspect of creating a terrifying horror animated short is the visual style and quality of your animation. The animation style you choose can make or break your short. It sets the tone and helps your audience understand the genre of your video. For example, if you want your short to have a dark and gritty feel, then you may want to choose a more stylized animation that uses darker colors and deeper shadows. On the other hand, if you're going for a more surreal and dreamlike atmosphere, then you may want to choose a softer, more minimalistic animation style. Whatever style you choose, make sure it's consistent throughout your short. Your animation doesn't have to be super fancy or expensive to be effective. In fact, sometimes the simplest animations can be the most terrifying. Think about some of the most iconic horror films ever made. Many of them use basic special effects and practical makeup, yet they're still able to create a lasting impact on viewers. What matters most is the story you're telling and how you tell it. However, there are a few key things to keep in mind when animating your horror short. First, think about the overall lighting and shadow design. How can you use light and shadow to create a sense of unease and suspense? For example, you could have your character walking through a dark alleyway with a spotlight suddenly shining on them, revealing something scary lurking in the shadows. Another thing to consider is the color scheme you use. Cool colors like blue and purple can create a sense of mystery and intrigue, while warm colors like red and orange can evoke feelings of danger and excitement. Finally, don't forget about the importance of camera angles and point of view. How can you use camera movement to make your viewers feel like they're in the story? For example, you could use a crane shot to slowly lower the camera down towards a scary sight, or use a Dutch angle to create a sense of disorientation and unease. By paying attention to these key elements, you can create a truly terrifying and unforgettable visual experience for your viewers. The sound design and music you choose for your horror animated short can make or break your video. Sound is a powerful tool that can evoke emotions, create suspense, and immerse your audience into your story. Let's take a moment to discuss the importance of sound design and music in creating a truly terrifying horror animated short. Eerie background music can set the tone and create a sense of suspense. Footsteps, whispers, and creaking doors can add to the atmosphere of unease. Sound effects should be used sparingly to maximize their impact. Well-timed sound effects can heighten fear and surprise. Silence can also be a powerful tool for building tension. Voice acting and narration can bring your characters to life and convey their emotions. An expressive narrator can draw your audience into the story. Now let's dive into some specific tips for incorporating sound into your horror animated shorts. First, consider the overall mood you want to create for your short. Is it dark and suspenseful or more fast-paced and intense? Once you have a sense of the overall tone you're going for, you can start to select the appropriate music and sound effects. For example, if you're going for a more suspenseful and psychological horror, you may want to use a soundtrack that features slow-building instrumentals and sound design that focuses on subtle cues like whispers and footsteps. On the other hand, if you're going for a more intense and action-packed horror, you may want to use a soundtrack with a faster tempo and sound effects that feature things like screams and gunshots. When it comes to sound effects, less is often more. You don't want to overwhelm your audience with too much noise. Carefully select sound effects that serve an important purpose in your story and use them sparingly to maximize their impact. For example, if you have a scene where your character is walking through a dark and abandoned house, you could use the sound of footsteps to create a sense of dread and anticipation. Suddenly, a loud bang is heard off screen. This could be the sound of a loose floorboard or a chair being knocked over. The important thing is that the sound is unexpected and startling. You want your audience to feel like they're actually in the scene and experiencing it firsthand. When it comes to voice acting and narration, it's important to choose a style that fits the tone of your short. A deep and dramatic voice can create a sense of foreboding, while a more conversational style can make your characters feel more relatable and down to earth. If you're using narration, consider having the narrator adopt different voices for each character. This can help to distinguish between them and make the story easier to follow. Whatever style you choose, make sure that the voice actor you select is able to convey the emotions of the story effectively. This is especially important for horror stories, where the emotional impact can be greatly heightened by a skilled voice actor. Next, consider the pacing and timing of your short. A slow and deliberate pace can build suspense and tension, while a faster pace can create a sense of urgency and excitement. When it comes to timing, pay attention to the length of your shots and the placement of your sound effects. Short, quick cuts can create a sense of chaos and intensity, while longer shots can build suspense and dread. And let's not forget about the importance of engaging thumbnails and titles. Your thumbnail is the first thing that potential viewers will see, so it's important to make it eye-catching and relevant to your story. A thumbnail with a shadowy figure lurking in the background or a close-up of a pair of glowing eyes can create a sense of mystery and intrigue. Similarly, your titles should be both descriptive and attention-grabbing. Using keywords like terrifying, true horror, or animated scary stories can help your audience understand what your short is about and entice them to click and watch. Finally, don't forget about SEO. Use relevant hashtags like #animated-horror, #scariest stories, #horror animation to help your audience find your short. And be sure to use descriptive tags and keywords in your title and description. If your short is part of a larger series, be sure to include chapters or timestamps to help viewers navigate to the part of the video they were most interested in. And don't forget to include a call to action. Encourage your viewers to like, comment, and subscribe to show their support for your work. You could even ask them to share their own scary experiences in the comments to get them more engaged with your video. By following these tips, you can create a truly terrifying and unforgettable horror animated short that will keep your audience on the edge of their seats. So why wait? Start animating your next horror masterpiece today, and don't forget to give credit where credit is due. If you use any music, sound effects, or story ideas from other sources, be sure to give them proper credit in the description of your video. Also, make sure all the assets you use are properly licensed and won't result in copyright issues down the road. And lastly, stay consistent. Your audience wants to know what to expect from you. If you upload regularly and maintain a consistent visual and storytelling style, your audience will grow and your videos will continue to get better. Thanks for watching.